What is consciousness evolution? The shift in consciousness. When I look in the mirror every day, I don't really notice how I am changing. Such is the state that humanity is in today. We are changing. We are becoming more self-aware. If we do notice changes in our world, it is likely that we are disturbed by those changes. There's a lot to be disturbed about. War, political and social dysfunction, the decay of personal liberty, poverty, and on and on. Now, notice how I jumped from self-awareness to awareness of what is happening around us. Because that is generally where our attention always is. What is happening in our outside world? Rarely do we spend much time looking at what is happening within us. And what does that even mean, within us? We have been trained since the day we entered this world to pay attention to the outside, to learn to conform to our parents, society, country. How to navigate and manipulate our surroundings to extract what we want from the outside. We are not taught to go inside, to dig deep in ourselves to see what makes us tick, to see what influences us to make the choices we then enact, to see how our energy affects what we create. Yes, energy. Yes, what we create. Why do I say it in this way? Because the biggest hurdle we face in our personal development is that we don't know who and what we are. Who are we? What are we? What is our purpose here on this earth within this lifetime? Questions that have been asked from the moment we embarked on life on earth. If I could convince you of all I know to be true in this regard, if I could convince everyone on the planet to embrace our true nature, life on earth would instantly transform. However, my intention is not to convince you or anyone else. My intention is to provide you with good information. Information that you can use to make the journey. That journey begins and ends with you. That journey is the one that takes you from chaos and victimhood to knowledge, self-awareness, and ultimately to freedom and self-empowerment. Now, before you dismiss me as yet another self-help guru or life coach, please understand, I abhor those terms and would sooner have teeth pulled than to be considered in such terms. I wish to share what I know. I was built for this. What someone else does with what I share is completely their own journey. And they will have the same fits and starts that I did, the same dark nights of the soul, the same traumas around our past and our present choices, and the same realizations that will bring them to new understandings about themselves and their world and their place within it. And most importantly, we will come to know how we create all of it, all of our experience, all of our interactions, all of our world is created by ourselves. This is what the shift in consciousness is about. This is what I mean when I say consciousness evolution. And this is what I will be writing about. How humanity is becoming more self-aware. You wouldn't know it by looking around at the world. You would think it's all going to hell in a handbasket. But actually, this is exactly why it looks this way. Because the old answers no longer work for the new questions. Because as we become more self-aware, the institutions of government, religion, and society, the authorities, are becoming increasingly irrelevant. And in the march to irrelevancy, those institutions see their influence slipping. They see their position of authority crumbling. And whether they are aware of the larger underlying movements or not, they are desperate to rein in these movements within individuals and society at large that are usurping the traditional power structures. Our power, once we understand it, will render these structures impotent. This is why they spend so much time and energy trying to convince us that we need them in positions of authority, why we need them to control our world. This understanding of our personal power is directly tied to our true nature and the nature of our physical reality. There will come a time, a tipping point, when, like all things that become common knowledge, in which everyone will understand these truths. When that happens, our world will become unrecognizable from our current state. I use the word truths with some reservation, because whatever someone believes is their truth, and it is true to them. True does not necessarily mean accurate. Many things are true, but not accurate. And while I don't have the market cornered on either truth or accuracy, I have a pretty sound foundation from which to work and share with my readers. It will not be scientifically sound. There is no way to objectively prove many of the things I will be sharing with you. However, in my own subjective experience, I can attest that it's all, so far, so good. I also wish to share that I don't have it all figured out myself. It is a work in progress. Just like a life, we know what we know when we know it. But consciousness is not a thing, it's an action. A life is not finite, though it has a beginning and an end point. The sum total of a life cannot be quantified. Therefore, I will share what I know as I know it. And in my next installments, I will begin to lay the groundwork for what I do know. There are a series of underlying ideas that must be in place in order to begin to have a greater understanding of the self that you will discover. For me, that process is ongoing. It will never end. And it never began either. I will leave you with that conundrum for a future discussion. I decided to start this on Substack after coming here a year ago to follow a number of writers that had been silenced on traditional media. Many of those great voices of freedom and truth that had run afoul of authority and state-sponsored corporate media. While I had been looking for a medium in which to share my thoughts, Substack seems a perfect community in which to begin this long-awaited entrance into publishing. I look forward to starting a publication that addresses something that is not being discussed elsewhere. So thanks to Substack, and thanks to you, reader, for joining me here. I write by inspiration, so I will try to be inspired about once a week, maybe more. I am certain that you will find it interesting and outside of typical journalistic endeavors. Thanks for your interest, and thanks for being here.